Well, welcome to question 92 of the Secunda Secundae. The topic for this video is superstition. I am Dr. Thibault. Superstition is placed under the section of justice. So we are looking at the virtue of justice, and then we are looking at the virtue of the potential part of religion. So religion as a virtue. And now we are looking at the vices associated with religion. And since religion is a moral virtue, as a moral virtue, it is balanced by excess and deficiency. So the sections of superstition we deal with are listed here with undue worship, idolatry, divination, and vain observance. And then we will get into the deficiencies later on, to which there are three. So as I just said, well, there are, within moral virtues, there are, the virtue is the observed mean, which is true religion. So true religion is the observed mean. It is giving to God what is properly due. It's giving what is due. So, so then, therefore, the vice is twofold. There is excess and deficiency. Now, superstition is excess of religion. So it's being religious in a sense. Now, this is my own words, but it's being religious without God. Right? It is being ritualistic. It's having faith. It's having hope in things which are not of God. Right. So if you one more to, I'll go back to my rock here. Right. If I were to disappears, if I were to have faith in this rock saving me from disaster, or to hope that this rock would cure me from cancer, well, I could have rituals about this rock, but it's not aimed at God, right? So because it is religious in a sense, it's dealing with faith, it's dealing with hope, it's dealing with ritual, it's dealing with reverence even, but it's not aimed at God. Therefore, it is in excess of all of the trappings of it without the proper intention, the proper direction, proper final object, in terms of the causality, right? The final cause is not there. Therefore, it is superstitious. It's too much and in the wrong manner, right? That's the problem. To worship one, proper worship is to God, and this is to worship something which is not God. In terms of true religion, there is no such thing as excess. So, St. Thomas's response to objection 3, St. Thomas points this out, saying, in terms of true religion, right, which is giving God what is due, humans always fall short of giving God what is due. Any type of justice in terms of giving to God what is due is giving to God the best we can, to the best ability of God to accept it, right? It's just the best we can is what is due, because what it is actually owed to God is impossible for man to pay back. Therefore, how can you be excessive, right? You can't, right? We were to consider nuns who do perpetual adoration, right? If they could do more, they would, and it wouldn't be too much, all right? In terms of Mother Teresa serving the poor, can never really be too much, right? If you're doing it out of the love of God, you can't love God too much. So in terms of true religion, there's no such thing as excess. But in terms of the trappings of religion or the devotion, if it's not to God specifically, it's too much. And really, if it's not to God directly, it takes very little for it to become too much. Any amount of energy put towards the worship of something other than God is too much energy. Now, when we look at the species of superstition, this section only has 2 articles, so it's very short. Species of superstition, we look to the undue mode of worship. Now, I shouldn't go into too much depth with these because they have their own questions coming up, as you have seen in an earlier slide, laid it out. So, but some of them, in terms of superstition, it's kind of family, and within the family there are these species, and St. Thomas lays out more of them later, but he has 3 here which he attributes to St. Augustine's finding them. One of them is idolatry, which is to give divine honor to creatures. So divine honor to God is fine, but if you were to be excessive about it and not only give divine honor to God, but to other things, now you have gone too far. Also, divinatory superstition, which St. Thomas defines as consulting with demons and contracting with them. Perhaps something like this would be Ouija boards and tarot cards and psychics and charging your crystals in the full moon and horoscopes, things like this, right? There's some form of divinization, right? You're putting your trust in things which aren't God. The spirits are moving it in some ways. You might not be intentionally doing it. I think there's a lot of people in our culture who are not intentionally uh, being incorrect in their approach. Right? They're probably not doing it as a direct intentional insult upon God, but if you are trusting uh, the psychic or the astrology or the palm reader more than you're trusting God, well, you've misdirect your focus, misdirect your worship and your trust. Right? One is to have faith in God. One is to have hope in God. If it's in these spirits, St. Thomas would call those spirits demons. It would be misdirected. Now, also certain observances, which is a very broad term, but that the divine is found in certain creatures. So this would be more synonymous with our idea of paganism or Wiccanism or something to that degree, where people are trusting in this tree is a sacred tree, um, or amulets, right? I have this rock I picked up at the beach, which is a volcanic rock. I like it because it's a nice looking volcanic rock and it reminds me of the beach. But if I were to think, well, because this is lava, therefore it has some type of um, energy, which then directs the power of the volcano. I'm making this up. I don't know much about the power of volcanic stones in kind of paganism, but or if it captured the power of the ocean being on the beach. Right? If I give this rock more credence than just being a rock of some sentimental value, right? Not anything intrinsic within it. It's an accidental quality of the rock that nothing. I could throw it away. It wouldn't. Wouldn't be much. But if I treat it as an amulet, now I have put energy which I ought to have put into divine providence, trust in divine providence, into a creature. If you misunderstand creature, a creature is one who is created. You can see that in the word creature, created. Right? So it could be anything. An angel is a creature. I'm a creature. This rock's a creature. The desk is a creature. Um, an animal is a creature. Anything which is created. Our common understanding of creature is that it is like type of animal, but really anything created is a creature. Um, Now, St. Thomas also, in response to objection one, points out that that several vices can be opposed to one virtue. So, true religion is the virtue, but one could be contrary to true religion through idolatry or divinization or um, giving divine credence, honors to creatures, right? There's you could do all three vices, and they could all three of them be opposed to one virtue. It's not always one uh, vice or one virtue. Actually, we have two families of vices, which are excess and deficiency. And then within the excess and deficiency, there are species. So it's not contrary to think that there are various species of vices. Um, and then lastly, in response to objection three, I thought this was an interesting point, but it's this idea that, maybe in the Old Testament they sacrificed animals, they did different things. People came from pagan past, people come from the Lombards and the Goths and the Anglo-Saxons, that they did what they could do at the time that they lived, right? They honored God in their own way right, at that time. But we now live in the time of grace, right? The time of the Holy Spirit. Because we live in the time of grace and the time of the Holy Spirit, it would be improper to undo, spelled wrong, undo that which is due. It would be undue um, uh, mode to worship according to the old law when we are in the time of grace. So to sacrifice goats again, even the Jews are somewhat skeptical of rebuilding the temple and recreating animal sacrifices. I'm not sure they want to move in that direction again. Um, it seems like it's going backwards. And St. Paul talked about that as well, about, following all of the Jewish observances. If you think circumcision will save you, then do that. But it didn't save it didn't save them before, so why do you think it's going to save them now? It's the Spirit that will save you. It's putting things in the proper order. So in conclusion, again, only 2 articles long. Superstition is an excess of the moral virtue of true religion, and there are various species uh, of vices associated with the excess and the deficiency of true religion. That's all we got. Very short.